Sue Taylor works hard to stay fit and stay healthy. This 68-year-old is a regular at the gym.
Okay, now chard helps keep your cholesterol down.
Okay.
It's going to be good. And then you.
And at home, homemade is her motto.
It's delicious.
It's not bad.
Cheers.
But there's one thing in her healthy lifestyle that may come as a surprise. In the evening, when you want to use some of the marijuana, you store it in the fridge.
Yes.
So she includes marijuana in her quest to stay youthful.
I have gummy care. Has the consistency of a gummy. And I use it for sleep and pain when I need to.
Sue Taylor was a high school principal preaching the dangers of drugs. But after her son got into the pot business, and as she began to learn more about marijuana, she changed her mind. Now she is a convert. Make that an advocate for aging Americans using marijuana. She speaks at community meetings explaining why pot may be good for them. The weed lady, somebody said they called you.
Yes, the weed lady. I am the weed lady.
And she's got statistics on her side. Polling confirms that more and more Americans age 55 and up are using more and more marijuana. One reason is geography. Almost half of Americans live in a place where marijuana is legal for recreational or medical purposes.
Beautiful plants.
Sue lives in California, one of the states where medical marijuana requires only a doctor's prescription.
I love this place. It is a great place, isn't it?
What are we talking about, Sue? What kinds of things does marijuana help if you're a senior?
Number one is arthritis. There are tinctures and rubs that you could actually put on your legs, on your knees, across your back, wherever you're having any arthritic pain. Most seniors use the cannabis for pain and to sleep.
Does it frustrate you that the money isn't there for research?
Of course, but I do think we're turning a corner on that.
Dr. Igor Grant is a distinguished professor and chair of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of California, San Diego, and he has a rare federal grant to study the potential benefits of pot.
Well, first of all, there is increasing evidence that cannabis is helpful in the management of certain kinds of pain.
And it's the kind of discomfort experienced by seniors, like sharp pains felt by nerve damage caused by things like chemotherapy or diabetes. Keep in mind, over 65 Americans only account for 14% of the nation's population, but they use more than 30% of all prescription drugs, including some highly addictive painkillers.
An interesting question is, if people are prescribed cannabis, does that have then an opioid-sparing effect? Because, again, for chronic pain, we do use opioids, Vicodin and drugs like this.
So you mean, could it replace?
So could it replace or lessen the requirement? We need studies to understand that, but I think the preliminary evidence suggests that may be true.
I drop it under my tongue, about 5 or 6 drops, and that helps me sleep.
Kerry Stiles is 78 and wears a pacemaker. He discovered pot here at the Rossmore Retirement Community in Walnut Creek, across the bay from San Francisco. They have clubs for everything from swimming to cars.
Cannabis has so many medical applications.
And now, a club for medical marijuana use.
These are the 3 different types of plants of cannabis.
In the retirement community of more than 9,000, the club has about 100 regulars. Renee Lee is the club's president and a kind of pot guidance counselor.
So we caution, especially the seniors, to stay away from edibles and really start slow. We start with low dosage. We start in the early evening, tell them not to drive, try not to mix alcohol. There's a lot of caution, a lot of education that goes along with it.
But for some in the over 65 crowd, lingering stereotypes and stigmas from another time are hard to overcome. Why do you think seniors are resistant to this as opposed to 20-somethings and 30-somethings who don't seem to pay any attention to the stigma at all.
Probably the 1960s.
Our nation's pot paranoia actually dates to the 1930s. Remember reefer madness?
It's hopelessly and incurably insane, a condition caused by the drug marijuana to which he was addicted.
We are making a major offensive effort that's going to pay off.
Then, during the Nixon administration, the federal government classified it as a Schedule I drug, the same category that includes heroin and LSD.
It was publicity by the federal government and by state governments, how terrible it was and what it could do to you.
So these are our raw cannabis flowers. This is the way that cannabis comes.
But will you change minds if more and more seniors become comfortable with this? Do you think that's going to force government to change its mind, the federal government?
We certainly hope so. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime.
Keep in mind that even today, pot is still illegal under federal law. But in Colorado, the first state to sell marijuana for recreational use. Have you been surprised at how this has worked out over the last 2 years?
I guess, to be honest, I have been.
Governor John Hickenlooper, who initially opposed legalization, now says he sees how it can work for those over 65.
For seniors that want to kind of relax and don't want to use alcohol, this is a choice that maybe that they will embrace more than others.
And that could tip the balance this fall when states across the country vote on legalizing marijuana. Seniors seem to be people who vote more often and have some influence. Is it going to have some effect?
Well, that's an interesting point, and I think you're probably right. The perception against legalizing marijuana, which, you know, historically in this state, when we passed it, seniors were probably the most adamant against it. And if more are using it, then that probably is going to change, and probably won't just be in Colorado. It will probably change across the country.
California, the first state to legalize medical marijuana, this fall may vote to approve pot for recreational use, making it even easier for pro-pot folks like Sue Taylor.
If I have back pain, if I overdo it at the gym,
to get access to the drug they now consider a vital weapon in their battle against the aches and pains of aging.
Seniors don't want to get high. They want to get well. And the cannabis helps